Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. We're going to talk a little bit about some different things today. It's kind of a random catch-all episode. This is partly a weather episode because apparently people like to hear about the weather, even though it's not really evergreen content. It's very in-the-moment content. We are in the middle of May. In fact, today is, middle of February. I'm thinking about May because I have to talk about May later, but February 19th. This is February 19th. 2025, and we are currently located kind of in the middle of the path of a very strange little pop-up snowstorm. Not pop-up, but isolated snowstorm. So north of us, if you go into Chesapeake Bay, Virginia stuff, like a lot of it is just not going to get hit. Like, this is not going to hit DC, it's not going to hit Fredericksburg, it's not going to hit the Eastern Shore. It's based on what I've been seeing, if you know where the Rappahannock River is, Deltaville? Something like that. It's not going to be up there, it's all going to be south. So Middle Peninsula, Lower Peninsula, Poquoson, York River, James River, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Elizabeth River, Elizabeth City, North Carolina, down to Washington, North Carolina, maybe. You're going to have this band of snow that's coming through. It's going to completely skip the northern mid-Atlantic and just hammer this little central section that usually doesn't get very much snow. We're supposed to be in the warm belt. Now I'm down south on that, and that's fine, but I'm still in it. I'm actually, fortunately, not quite in the heavy freeze zone. There's going to be heavier freezing just south of this as the storm passes through, going down into central North Carolina. So I believe you're looking at from around Washington south. Outer Banks south. So that's interesting. I don't use normal landmarks because I think about places that are on my maps for various reasons. Like Washington is on my map for various reasons. I think that Washington, North Carolina might make a really good seasonal port base area for some people. So I look at that, just like I think of, I don't know, there's some other areas I think about. I have to pull the map back out, and look at what do I think of, what do I think of it in these places. And, I look at some of these places are up the river, but they're not really way out there. So Washington is up the Pamlico River, which is great because you've got Pamlico Sound, Hatteras, the whole thing there. New Bern would be another one to look at if you want to be this far north but not get all the way up. So once you get north, there's a bunch of places in Albemarle where you could stay pretty easily, including you can go up Elizabeth City. There's a lot of places where you could base yourself, where you have some amount of transportation, some amount of city, some easy day cruises or weekly cruises, places where you might want to spend hurricane season, or maybe you're spending the weekend up north for some reason. Whatever, just things to think about without having to go all the way up the ditch and deal with the less fun parts of being in the Norfolk area. Now, north of Norfolk, you would be going into Chesapeake Bay, and there's the whole thing about Chesapeake Bay. There's tons of stuff up there, but it's also still very hot in the summer. So if you want to avoid the heat and the pop-up thunderstorms, you got to kind of pick where you're going. Anyway, right now we're about to get dumped on with a bunch of snow. We're kind of watching it. I'm watching the radar. I'm watching the maps. I'm watching the wind swinging around. It's getting us a little bit, and I've got everything running. You can hear the pumps and the fans and everything. We're running stuff so that we're going to stay warm. Lots of diesel. We bought a bunch of diesel yesterday for heating purposes because we don't use this magical diesel heater. They're fantastic. We got the lunchbox style, so it's a self-contained unit, and then we plumbed it in through a deck access plate in bulkhead in the cockpit, and we've got 2 of those, and those deck access plates are really wonderful. You don't need a 6-inch one, you only need a 3-inch one for the heater, but we have a couple of 6-inch ones installed because they add airflow in the summer. With you have screens on them. That's not hard to do, and then they add to your airflow in the summer, and you can also put little fans in there and stuff. It's really nice. Also, the cockpit, our hatch, the windows in the hatch actually slide out, and you can replace them with screens, which also adds to your airflow. So maximizing airflow in a boat is important. All right, back to the weather. We're going to get dumped on. So potentially 4 to 10 inches of snow, depending on where in the band you are. And it kind of moves around, and it's moving around hour by hour. So I don't know where the prediction's going to end up being for us. Definitely lots of warnings and stuff. I like that the snow is supposed to start in the daytime this time instead of just being overnight, because it gives us the option, the ability to clean up as we go and protect the cockpit a little bit better and stuff. I still don't have a full roof system for the cockpit worked out because I haven't done any of the electric conversion yet, because I haven't done the poles yet, because I have to do the poles with some fiberglass work and some bedding work and some epoxy work, and it hasn't been warm enough to actually do that because I need 3 or 4 days of curing temperatures to actually get the work done, and that's not happening in February. Honestly, even if we made a bomb run right now, it probably would take us just the speed we go, and the anchoring and stuff. It'd probably take us 3 weeks to get down to where I knew the temperatures would be okay. Like Jacksonville or something. But the weather's been really weird, so just saying, oh, hey, you're in South Carolina now, you'll be above 45 degrees, you can cure your epoxy, doesn't work because the weather's been really, really interesting this winter. And it's a good lesson for cruising because now I have to think about my plans, like what are we going to do long term if we develop a circuit or a circle or something. For example, I don't really have a home port plan, but let's say that we were to pick New Bern or Elizabeth City and look at that and think about that as like an actual place to stay, right? Wintering in New Bern or Elizabeth City looks pretty fun, right? Or summering, but then you've got summer weather to deal with, and you got to talk about that. Also, summer markets to talk about, Then there's places like Belhaven. Anyway, what do you do if you're wintering somewhere when the weather gets really bad? One of the nice things about thinking through that, when you're out of Florida gets very crowded in the winter, and cruising the early part or the late part and everything and experiencing Florida and everything's great, but you don't have to just park there for the whole winter. If you've got a decent marina and you're not too far out, I haven't even really looked at South Carolina hidey holes yet. Georgetown maybe. But one of the things to look at there is what happens if you do have weather. It's a lot nicer to not be anchored out if you're going to get a random snowfall. Of course, you don't have that when you get into the Keys and the Gulf side of Florida, but that may not be the easiest place for you to hang out for the winter for various reasons. Who knows? Everyone has different reasons. And then, of course, you have the summertime, you have hurricane season where you need to be somewhere and you want to moderate your temperatures, okay? Right now, we're in the band, okay? We're somewhere in that band between what's the northern edge of this? Richmond might get a little bit, but Richmond is actually fairly north of this. So think about it as like from Newport News down into Washington, New Bern, North Carolina, that band. We're in that band, and it's just going to get hammered. And it would not be fun to be anchored out right now, but of course, if we were in the ICW anchoring out in this band, and we just knew it was coming and got, we're like, hey, we're not going to be anywhere. It would be easy to pull into a free dock or something, even raft up for the day. People do that. Like there's an emergency, it's going to be really sucky for 2 days, so you just go and you're like, okay, the free dock has 4 spots and all 4 spots are taken, so you raft up. You end up with 8, 9 boats, and they're just rafted up. It's just for a day or two. It's just to watch the storm go by, and that's fine. No big deal. But thinking about this, if you're thinking about long term, if you're thinking about where to be and you're cruising, make your plans. What is winter going to look like next year? Because this is a crazy one, all right? This is not a normal storm expectation. This is not like... This is pretty weird, and it's supposed to dump a lot of snow. And then south, so we haven't gotten the snow yet. I might put up some more videos today if the snow happens. I'm not going to do a live stream because I don't know if the bandwidth will support that. Any of the methods of what we have of connecting, or I don't know if they're going to support that. But it'll support several short videos if I want to make them. So I'm going to try to keep this one a little short. There's going to be ice. I look like I'm in the upper region of the high risk for actual ice storm. I'm not going to worry about it too much. The water's not going to freeze. The water temperature isn't that bad. Again, we still don't have a through hole at all, let alone a below the waterline one, so I'm not worried. The boat's pretty warm. I'm not worried about it. I'm worried about it if I let the top sides get really drenched with snow and don't brush it off and everything. So that's a problem. Of course, there's dinghy problems. I'm not even going to talk about that. It's on deck and covered right now because I'm just not going to deal with that. So that's it. Snow, ice, who knows? We'll talk about that a little bit more as it comes out. What this is making me think about, though, and talk about for your purposes, for your benefit, is thinking about seasonal regions for your cruising. So you can cruise heavy and just be constantly moving. Okay, these are the people who do the Great Loop in 8 months, or the Great Loop in 2 months. Like you can go fast and just pow, 50, 100 miles a day, burn the gas, burn the diesel. We can't do that on this boat, so it just won't physically do it. But also, I would like to be, to some extent, I'd like to be in a region during certain parts of the year. Not necessarily in one spot, like switching anchorages, moving around locally, that kind of stuff. When you look at an area like Jacksonville, Florida, okay, I'm going to use that for an example because I think it's a fantastic one. The region actually is really big. You could consider it. Sorry, there's a large diesel going by. Engine, boat. I think it's an oyster boat. You look at the Jacksonville, you're looking at Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, Jacksonville Beach, Palm Valley. I don't know if in terms of transit, Ubers, trains, whatever, you would consider going all the way down to Crescent Beach as being part of the Jacksonville area. You get a little further down there and you're kind of like Daytona Beach, Port Orange, but it's regionally speaking, I feel like it's all close enough that if you want to go get something, you should be able to get through all of it. And I don't know how the I don't actually know how the anchoring and docking and everything is in like Orange Park or Fruit Cove or Green Cove Springs or any of this. Like there's a whole lot of regional stuff, and regional cruising could be pretty cool. You're never going to be more than a couple days from getting back to whatever transit system that you use as a cruiser to get into Jacksonville. Say you have appointments or stuff that you have to deal with that use requires a city, okay, and transit systems. It's nice to be there. That would be a regional cruising thing. To some extent, even the Florida mini loop, where you go through the Okeechobee and you go around parts of Florida, is kind of regional cruising. You'll get far away, like the difference between West Palm Beach or Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale, and Naples or Fort Myers. You're across the state, but it's actually not that far. Like if you need to anchor the boat out or dock the boat or something in Fort Myers and head back to Port St. Lucie or Miami for some reason, for an appointment or something, it's actually not that bad. You can get a ride, you can get a shuttle, you can get a we're talking about 50, 60 miles. It's in Western terms, that's actually within a metro area. Like I would consider that to be part of LA. Like if I was on the West Coast and it was Miami to Naples, Florida, which is just across the state, in my head that would be like going from, I don't know, Hesperia to Riverside. Like it's in the same metro area. It's not a different metro area, it's not that big a deal. It's still part of LA as far as it goes. So things to think about. Regional cruising, how big is it? And that, once again, tying into the beer miles idea, that's kind of it's a transit system or a transportation system kind of thing. Like, what does it take to get from the boat to where you need to go? That's kind of your region. That's a regional thing. And being way out in the sticks can be a little bit hard on that. But, being in an area like anchoring in Miami is just I'm told, still haven't done Miami at all, ever. I've been to Jacksonville, but I've never been down to the tip. I have no idea. Anchoring apparently is a little bit of a nightmare at times, especially during crowded seasons. So that's the thing. The other thing to think about, of course, is weather, which is the topic of the video, kind of. And what does summer look like? This is a really big deal. Are you going to want to hang out in Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, North Carolina? Are you going to want to be at Nags Head or Elizabeth City in the summer? It's a good question. Are you going to want to be in Florida in the summer? It's a good question. People do it. People love it. Aside from the hurricane season part and your insurance and where you can stay and everything, there's, weather. It's hot. How does that work on your boat? Do you have an air conditioner? Do you need an air conditioner? Do you have enough bug screens? Do you have what it takes? So things to think about, and we're going to talk about that more over time. Right now, I'm going to wait for the storm, and we're in the band. Absolutely, definitely, positively, knock on wood, snow. And it's supposed to be starting right about now. So I'm going to upload this, and then I'll give you some updates later. Stay sideways.